Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Gary Day of the 187th District in Lehigh and Berks counties. I'm here at the 96th Pennsylvania Farm Show. This is the premier event for agriculture, which is the Commonwealth's #1 industry. The dual mission of the show is to highlight and honor our farmers and our food producers, and also to get more youth involved in agriculture, while educating all the non-farming public about our industry. Joining me now to discuss some current farming issues is the Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, George Gray. Welcome, George.
Hello, Gary. Good to see you.
Thank you for being on the program today. I really appreciate it. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about first where we are right now, the Pennsylvania Farm Show. Can you tell our viewers in the 187th District a little bit about the show, what you like about it, and maybe they should be down here. They should come down either this year or next year.
Absolutely. This is the 96th Pennsylvania Farm Show. It's 400,000 of your closest friends will come to the Pennsylvania Farm Show this year. There are 6,000 head of livestock here, 10,000 exhibits, and the best food that Pennsylvania has to offer. It's sometimes considered a state fair. It's also the largest agricultural event under roof in the nation. We have a butter sculpture here, 1,000 pounds of butter, commemorating the 4-H and the Pennsylvania Fair Association, because both of those organizations are vital to the ag industry in Pennsylvania. They also both turn 100 years old this year. So that's
100 years old. That's
it.
Quite an accomplishment to be involved in agriculture in Pennsylvania. We always talk about agriculture being the #1 industry. Can you tell us a little bit about what caught your eye this year? You talked about the butter sculpture. I know your background, but what are the things that you thought from the Secretary's perspective, some things that if people are here that they should go see, or maybe next year, definitely make sure that they see?
We have an exhibit called Today's Agriculture, which is over on the other side of the complex by the food court. And that depicts modern agriculture. They actually built a barn inside of our Farm Show Expo building. And there are poultry cages with chickens. So you can see how the chickens will lay the eggs, how they come down, and get a chance to get up close and personal with some of the animals of agriculture. You have the pigs in there. We have chickens, turkeys, ducks, beef cows, and dairy cattle. So
That's great. And this is such a wonderful event. I urge everybody to try to get out here this year and also next year and future years. But now, I know a little bit about your background, and I'd like the people in the 187th to know a little bit more about the person who's guiding the Department of Agriculture here in Harrisburg. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your background? I know you're a farmer.
Certainly.
Go ahead, tell them a little bit about where you come from and what's important to you.
Dairy farmer for 30 years in partnership with my brother. We have a 650-acre farm in northwest Crawford County, and it's just agriculture has been in my blood for all my life. We bought the farm off of my parents in 1976, and we still own it, still farm it.
So, and I'm really interested. I like to tell people, all of our farmers that are watching know the answer to this question, but our non-farmers in the district, what makes you want to stay in farming for your whole life? What is it? What is that one thing that makes you want to stay in and keep coming back season after season, year after year?
Well, it's a life of service, and it gets in your blood, and we want to produce something that we're proud of, and we really do. Each farmer produces enough food and fiber for 155 people, and nowadays we've gotten to the point where our generations off the farm. There are some third and fourth generation that have never been to their grandfather's farm or never been to their father's farm. So an event like the Pennsylvania Farm Show is great because you get to see agriculture, see how it really works, and you get to see how your food is produced.
I think it's important that people understand, we have so many choices in what to eat, what to put in our bodies, but to understand where food comes from, real food, not as much as the processed food, but the real food, where it comes from. And this show, you're right, this show or our local county fairs, show very similar things, but not quite as big on the scale that they do here. Now, there's another important part. You have a very important job here in Pennsylvania, and the governor has entrusted with you the Department of Agriculture. Can you tell us a little bit about what you see as maybe your top 2 or 3 goals, targets, or what the way you're going to lead the department? What are the top 2 or 3 things that are going to be important to you in the budgeting process and through your administration?
Well, I've said right out of the gate that I want to work on marketing. Over 90% of the mouths to feed are outside of the United States, outside of Pennsylvania. And I think that that's an opportunity that we have to take advantage of. If we're going to stay competitive, we have to keep our markets open to everyone and allow our farmers to expand so that in future years, when we need more food, as the world population expands, that we will be able to take care of that population.
Oh, that's great. Okay, there's other things that are happening. The 187th district used to be maybe 20, 30 years ago, almost completely rural and agricultural. Over that 30 years, it's changed. We have half of my district is suburban, where we've had developments built in it. The other half remains rural. So I always say we're still rural, and where we're not, we still have a memory of being a rural community. So those issues of developed areas with more population and farming, we're always working with the community to try to let people know, hey, we've moved into a farming community, but also work with farmers on proper ways and good ways to be good neighbors, let's say. And all the farmers I know in my district, they're all good neighbors, and they all do that very well. Can you share a little bit of your experience or anything that you've come across since you've been the secretary about that relationship between a neighborhood, a development, and the farming community?
Well, we always try to be a good neighbor, like you said. Pennsylvania is number 1 in farmland protection, which saves farmland. And we need to continue to tell Pennsylvania's agriculture story because of the need for agriculture. And it's just getting along with your neighbors,
right.
Which we all know. Sometimes there are conflicts, but we need more people to tell the story of how important it is that we have a safe and steady food supply.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And, I look forward to working with you through the budgeting process. It's coming up shortly. You've agreed to come into my district for my agricultural town hall meeting that I have with our farmers.
Look forward to it.
I appreciate that. That's you have 67 counties. I know you've been around to a lot of the fairs. I saw you at the Kutztown Fair. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate when you come out into our district. It really helps us. I try to be very visible in my community, and it really helps when the administration comes out as well. I want to thank you for doing that. I want to thank you for being on the program today as well. I really appreciate having the leaders in Harrisburg come out to the people in my district and elsewhere and listen to people. Listening firsthand, as you know, we've talked about this many times, helps us govern better, I believe, in the legislative side as well as the executive branch as well. So I want to thank you for being on the program today, and I look forward to bringing you out in February to the town hall meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. 2011 was an extreme weather year that included the destructive floods from Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Here's the story of how Pennsylvania's farming community coped with the storms and their aftermath.
In my area, I suffered a flood in April and another one in September. The April flood delayed our planting. The September flood destroyed about 200 acres of our crops. We had as much as 22 feet of water on some of our land. My dad started farming in 1949. This is the most challenging year we have ever farmed through. I've had a couple years where we lost more money, but I've never had a more challenging year. In our area, we were over 30 inches of rainfall above normal. Part of the problem was even the quality of the crop, because in many cases, rain does a great deal of damage. We grow tomatoes, for instance. Tomatoes do very well in dry weather, but in wet weather, you have a tough time harvesting a quality tomato. You're wrestling with rain check. You're also wrestling with many diseases that find wet and damp conditions very conducive to them. An extremely challenging year for all growers, but like all growers, it's now 2012, and we're looking optimistically to the future.
From the 1st of September till we were done the end of October, it was rain, rain, and more rain, and the apples on the trees literally split and started to rot, and it made them not very good to store because they had all this moisture in, and they broke down much earlier than they normally would. Usually I have apples at my market till the latter part of February, and we closed up the first of the year because the fruit was just poor quality. So the only good thing about 2011 is it's over.
Well, the rains early delayed planting, and then we had more rain and floods that left a lot of fields underwater. Growers throughout Pennsylvania lost anywhere from a third to half the crop. You're talking millions and millions of dollars of lost revenue, and growers, the rest of the crop due to the rain was smaller than normal. For those that didn't get completely flooded out, we're hoping that we have a better season next year, but this year is pretty much done.
From the flooding, it made it very difficult to harvest the grapes. Most of our grapes had to hang for a little bit longer than we expected, which made it a longer season than anticipated because we were hoping that the grapes would dry out. We specifically lost about 3 acres of our Riesling grapes, and what we did harvest will require additional work by the winemaker to make it a product that we can sell. This happens in agriculture. We're lucky that we had 2010 and 2009 were pretty good years, so we still have those vintages that we're working on and can sell. It would take about 18 months for 2011s to be put on the shelf. So we're hoping for a good 2012, and there we'll have that for a backup.
Farmers are very independent people, and they're the first ones to help, last ones to ask for help, and they're very resilient people, and I think that most of them have received the help that they needed and are well on their way to recovery.
A lot of farmers told us this year that this is the most challenging year they've ever had with the weather over decades. I mean, we've had people 70, 80 years old who've been in farming literally all of their lives say this past year has been the most challenging year. You get into the hurricane that we had come through, and although we had a lot of rain with that, we also had issue with the wind. The wind negatively impacted a lot of our orchards, where a lot of things such as apples and peaches just fell off the trees. Once they hit the ground, you can't sell them. They're no good. So there were major losses there. And then the second storm, the remnants of Tropical Storm Lee, you had the massive flooding with all the weather conditions, and that caused problems for everyone. A lot of farmers, especially in northeast and south central area of the state, were flooded. So a lot of their grounds, whether it was from pumpkins to corn to soybeans to green beans, there were major losses there with the flooding. But then you also had other issues because of all that rain. Once again, there was rotting crops in the field. So you could have problems with vegetables as well with that, rotting in the field, corn that you just couldn't use anymore. And if there weren't losses due to the flooding, what you had is a reduction in yield because you did not have a good growing season. This can also hurt farmers now in 2012. For instance, dairy farmers who grow a lot of their own feed, meaning corn, soybeans, hay. They put it all together, a couple other things in there to feed their animals. If they have to go out and now buy those products, it cuts right off their bottom line of profits as well. So they don't have the yield, they don't have as much, they're going to have to go outside. This is going to cost them more money. So it makes it difficult. Not only do you have the problems of 2011, but you're going to have problems in 2012 as well. Up in the Northeast, you had a lot of flooding up there. Another issue was for dairy farmers is you can't keep milk around. And a lot of roads around some of these farms in rural areas were closed for days. So the milk hauler couldn't get in to get the milk, and the farmers basically had to dump the milk because they couldn't keep it any longer.
When you drive down a rural road past a barn, are you able to imagine what goes on inside? A massive display at this year's show opens the barn door and gives folks a peek at how the animals inside are cared for.
From farm gate to dinner plate was the theme of this year's show. One of the best demonstrations of this theme was the Today's Agriculture display, a giant barn filled with animals. The goal was to show the care of animals in modern farming.
A lot of consumers really have a misconception about how animals are raised. So we kind of wanted to open the doors to each segment. So each thing here is a snapshot of what you'd see if you went into a broiler house, a duck house, a layer house, to kind of give consumers an idea and say, hey, we're opening the doors. We want you to actually get rid of those misconceptions and to trust us. Because there's a lot of distrust there where people think, they think farms are corporately owned when the fact is most farms are actually family farms.
What I think it's going to allow them to see is that they put the misnomer aside that when the animals are in these facilities that they drive by every day, that they're not packed in like sardines, so to speak, that they're not being mistreated, that they don't have light, they don't have water, and a lot of these things that you hear out there about the mistreatments of animals and stuff. And when you look at some of the exhibits, the poultry here is a good example of it, of the automatic feeders and the waters and the heat lamps, and those are things that you would find in these modern facilities today so that we can keep the animals healthy, growing well, growing fast, so that they can put a product on the consumer's table.
Volunteers from each industry fielded questions about what the animals eat, their life cycle, and the design of their pens.
The crowd has been unbelievable. It's been pretty much jam-packed for the last 4 days. People are asking a lot of good questions, and they're really getting into it. I think people like seeing how animals are raised. They're making the connection that my eggs are coming from this type of system, and that's exciting for me to see.
Well, that's why we kept her home from school today, to bring her down to see how things actually go from the farm to your house.
I think they take care of the animals. They feed them, they take care of them, and I think they're real cute.
Visitors were struck by the new techniques being used by farmers today.
It's really neat seeing the way the new stuff is, how it evolved and come around. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is pretty modern.
How they're feeding their animals nowadays with the pipes and how they're getting the water to the animals. It's really nice.
It's a lot cleaner, too.
It's a lot cleaner.
Many people are also learning that there's more to farming than meets the eye.
People are amazed of the science behind agriculture. And when I tell them I go to school for it, they're kind of blown away because they don't think that, people go to school. They're really amazed that we put so much science behind agriculture. And there's a reason to what we do. I mean, we don't just do things. I mean, everything has a reason, a select reason, and it's always for the animal's benefit.
Feed crops like soybeans and corn were displayed outside of the barn to demonstrate the ways of increasing yields for a society that continues to demand more food.
McDonald's keeps adding restaurants, and Sheetz gas stations. They keep adding, gas stations that serve food. And these places are going to demand more food, and we got to find better ways to get it and stuff too. So through modern technologies, we found what are the best ways we can keep the animals healthier, which ways we can make the corn grow faster and more efficiently, so when it's harvested, we get the most from the production.
The grain, the soybean meal, the corn, all takes water, and so we've got to be efficient converters of feed into food.
Sponsors of the exhibit hope that the hundreds of visitors were educated and will now think twice about the food on their plate and the local farmer who supplied it.
Everyone knows a big part of the farm show experience is competition, some which results in a lucrative payoff at the livestock auction. But not everyone is aware the auctioneers themselves have a spirited competition to see who's best.
Bring it forward, bring it out, bring it out.
When the grand champion steer, hog, and lamb are auctioned off at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, Harry Bachman is usually the man behind the microphone. It's something he was born to do.
I'd watch those auctioneers and I'd say, someday I'm going to do that. And then at home with my brothers, we'd be playing auction all the time. In the playroom, I'd be selling the trucks, the cows, the tractors, and whatever.
Bachman's stage is in the livestock sales arena, for 30 or so other licensed auctioneers battling it out to be king or queen of the callers. Their stage is 100 yards away in the banquet hall.
This is a very serious deal. You go back home and you can tell everybody that you won the Pennsylvania Auctioneers Contest.
When you get the cameras and the lights and everything, and in front of, like I said, the past bid calling champions, it's a big deal.
The ground rules are simple. Contestants take turns auctioning off donated items to a crowd of bargain hunters and fellow bid callers. 2 preliminary rounds narrow the field to 10 finalists, and then a final showdown decides the champion.
Contestant number 26.
No names, just numbers. But that's not what gives an auctioneer his or her identity anyway. It's that voice. Some are melodious. Some are intense. Most are machine gun rapping. It's called the chant, and it's very much an individual thing. But why are all those syllables necessary anyway?
The filler is what makes your chant rhythmic and gives it some flexibility. What I was taught was umbid would you give. So somebody will say umbid 1 would you give 2. And then after a while it just sounds like umbid 1 would have been 2, umbid 1 would have been 2, would have been 2.
Whatever the style, the auctioneer's objectives are to be heard and understood, even when the bidding gets frenzied.
I can work 1 and 2, sometimes 3 bidders, but usually you work your first 2 bidders. Whenever one of them drops out, then you'll go to another bidder.
Of course, a good bid caller is expected to be knowledgeable about what he's selling and to drive the price of it as high as it'll go.
We're not concerned about where we start, it's where we finish. The bid is, the high bid is established by the buyer, not the auctioneer or the seller. It's the want and desires of the audience.
Among the past champions in tonight's crowd is 2003 winner Brent Souter, who briefly took the stage for an exhibition performance.
Well, I started actually when I was 13, helping an auctioneer set up auctions, and through high school I aspired to do that, and coming out of high school was contacted by the Alderfer Auction Company, and they hired me, sent me to school. I apprenticed through them, and the rest is history.
Souter's calling to call began in childhood. For many others, it came from family tradition.
My father started the auction business after he retired from the service. And he started his own auction barn, and then he pulled me in, and I was apprenticed with him for 2 years, and then we did auctioneering as a father-daughter team.
Even though only one will be judged best, all the contestants at this year's competition will use this experience to improve their skills and, in turn, their livelihood. And they're all quick to point out that showtime, as they call it, is just one part of being an auctioneer.
You got to get the contracts on, you got to get your advertising in place, and then you got to come back, get pictures, get the content list, put that all into spreadsheets, get it sent out to newspapers, get it put on websites.
You have to not mind crawling in dirty, dusty attics. You have to enjoy what you're doing because there's a lot of hard work involved. I just love everything about the business. I love the history behind it. I love the people behind it. There's a different story for everything that you sell.
We're here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show with Lance Lazarus. Lance, thank you for letting us come here and put your pig here on show on my television program. Can you tell us a little bit about the name of this pig and when you started with this project?
This is Chester. We started it in July, and in October we tag him and pick out which one you want, out of litter, and we pretty much just raise him from there and just keep feeding him and getting him as good as you can.
So here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, we have it's very similar to like a fair in all of our counties across the Commonwealth, but we have young people here that are working with different types of animals, learning how to raise animals. He started this project in the summer and then selected and tagged his hog in October, right? That's what you said. And he works with them. I'm so proud to see different people from around the 187th District, especially our youth, working with different animals, learning how to select what will be a champion, what could be a champion. animal, and that's what you've done. Can you tell us a little bit about the award that that your hog received?
He had won the reserve champion of the other purebreds, and that is when there's not enough pigs for the purebred classes and the other breeds, that they put them all together, and that's what he was in. There was 14 in his class, and he got second, and reserve. But yeah.
14 in the class, and he got second. What an accomplishment. I mean, the young people in our district are doing all types of things. Farming is an integral part of the 187th district. I'm proud. I'm glad you let me come here today and see this wonderful achievement that you've had, and I really appreciate your time and being on the program today. Thank you. Hi, everybody. State Representative Gary Day here, still at the Pennsylvania Farm Show. With me now is Bev Gruber. Bev, could you tell everybody what a wonderful show this is and why they should be here?
Everyone should come to the Pennsylvania Farm Show. It's just really, really agriculture. It's through and through. We have lots and lots of product and a lot of educational things for people to see and do.
Now, Bev's from the 187th District, and our families know each other for a long time. You've been coming down here quite a few years, I think. Is that right? How long have you been doing this show?
I think I've been coming here since I was 7 years old, and I just turned 68, so that's a lot of years to come to the farm show.
And you know what? You did say it's a wonderful place to come, whether you're in the agriculture industry or if you just like food and how it's produced. You should come here and see all the different agricultural products from across the Commonwealth. Anything else to add?
It's just a lot of fun, and you really would enjoy it, and there's arena events just about every night, and there's been lots and lots of people. It's been a record year, and so we're really pleased, and the weather's with you, so come to the farm show.
Bev, thanks for being with me on the program today. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is State Representative Gary Day again, here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show in 2012. It's a wonderful place to be, and you should be here. Get down here and come here if you haven't this year. Make sure you get here next year. We have another person from the 187th District. He's not with me right now. He's probably out looking at some other exhibits. But he's a beekeeper from Schnecksville, and he's actually has a first place, a second place, and a third place. He has a first place in mead. He has a second place in honey, and he has a third place in beeswax. So he had a great show from being a beekeeper from Schnecksville. I think it's important that I try to let everybody know that there's a lot of people in the 187th District who come to the farm show, show their products, their farm products, and we still are a great farming community in the 187th. Thank you for watching today, and you can just see some of these things that we have here. This is the honey that you're seeing right now from all over the Commonwealth. It's an industry that's alive in Pennsylvania and definitely in the 187th District as well. Thank you.